In this video, we'll cover 13 psychological tips to be able to read anyone instantly. If you like our content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to our channel, Psychology Pub, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. You can also check out some of our special offers through the links in the description box. When we talk about reading other people, the first thing that likely comes to mind is the superpower that we only see in the movies. You'll have the image of Professor Charles Xavier with powerful telepathic abilities. But many people possess this kind of skill and are actually masters at it. Just by looking at you for a few moments, they'll be able to decipher what's going on in your head during that moment. These are skilled individuals you'll likely see as special agents, detectives, negotiators, or psychologists. The good news is you don't need to have these jobs to be able to read people effectively. But you will need to know a little bit of psychology, which we will share. These are 13 tips. Create a baseline. This is the first tip we're mentioning because it is also the most important. If you don't create a baseline, reading other people will be far more difficult. Creating a baseline is essentially familiarizing yourself with the behavior of others. Let's say one of the closest people you work with has a constant habit of squinting or clearing their throat. These are obviously harmless actions, but it's important to take notice if these are part of their mannerisms, or there could be a part of their personality that could be off and potentially dangerous. Notice how they shake your hand. A lot of first impressions are usually created during that first handshake. Whether you're a man or a woman, a firm handshake is a sign of respect towards the other person. On the other hand, a limp handshake, or what others refer to as a wet noodle, signifies weakness. But let's delve a little deeper, because even the way a person shakes your hand sends a particular message. Experts note that if someone tilts your hand to make your palm face the ceiling while shaking your hand, it could mean that they're trying to exert their power over you. That act of giving yourself the upper hand is as good as saying, "I can get you to do whatever I want." Conversely, extending a hand with the palm facing up could mean you're giving up your authority, which signifies submissiveness. Where their feet are pointing says a lot. Especially during the first meeting, people will be guarded with their real thoughts and emotions. They will open up to an extent, but for the most part, they're holding their cards to their chest. But there are subtle giveaways in their body language to indicate certains. Here's one: the direction where their feet are pointing at. According to experts, we're naturally inclined to point our feet towards something or someone we have a liking for. This is a good indicator to gauge whether someone you have an eye on is equally interested. Let's say you're on a date or at the dance floor in the club. If both feet are pointed towards you, then that's a good sign. But if their feet are pointed towards the exit or somewhere else, you may not want to get your hopes up too high. Spot the signs of nervous behavior. No matter how much they try to hide it, you can easily tell if a person is feeling nervous. It may not show in their facial expressions too much, but they will give off small but very noticeable movements. Some good examples are chewing off the lip, jiggling a leg, twiddling of fingers, and wringing hands together, just to name a few. You will also notice their breathing becomes more shallow, or their heads or arms move in a jerking motion. Nervous tics are also easy to spot, since the person doing it is likely putting a little more effort to conceal it. This could be in the form of coughing or grunting, wrinkling the nose, or constantly touching other things. A person's honesty or dishonesty lies in the tone of their voice. On the surface, a lie can be difficult to spot. It can be much more challenging if the person you're dealing with is either someone you trust or is a champion at telling bold-faced lies. But according to experts, a good indicator would be the tone of a person's voice. Someone who is telling the truth tends to be more relaxed, and you will hear it in the way they speak. On the other hand, a lying person will tend to talk a little louder and more intensely in order to come off as more convincing. Observe their smiles. Each smile can express other emotions outside of joy. If you have a good eye, you'll be able to spot the differences. But if not, take note of these types of smiles. The first one is called the Duchenne smile, the standard smile that signifies genuine enjoyment. All of those pearly white teeth are in full display, and the smile runs across the face from one side to the other. Both cheeks are lifted up. A social smile, or what others refer to as affiliative smiles, are usually done to show common courtesy. It shows no teeth and isn't as wide. Then you have a smile that denotes dominance. It's more of a smirk where one corner of the mouth is raised up and can be either an expression of confidence or condescension. It's commonly associated with disingenuous, sometimes treacherous behavior. Pay attention to how they lean. This is quite an obvious one, especially in the context of flirting and romance. A person who leans in more is likely interested, while someone who does the opposite and backs away likely isn't. Now, let's put it in the context of a job interview, where both individuals are facing each other in front of a desk. An interviewer that tends to lean forward more, albeit subtly, is likely showing interest in what you have to say, and you could take that as a good sign. However, if they start to constantly lean on the back of their chair, it could indicate that they are tired of the conversation. Check the way they grip onto objects. A balled-up fist is an indicator of stress, anger, or frustration. Whatever the situation may be, it says that the person isn't in a good emotional or mental place during that moment. Likewise, you'll notice this individual hold on to objects with a tighter grip. It could be a glass, a spoon, or a bottle. It's a low-key but still detectable sign of pent-up emotions wanting to come out. It could also be a red flag for anger or mental health issues. If this is someone you're not comfortable with, it'll likely be best to stay away. If it's a friend or loved one, you may want to recommend some form of help. Recognize the strongest voice in the room. Imagine a conference room filled with the highest-ranking executives in the company. The initial thought would be that the individual sitting at the head of the table is the most powerful person in this room. In terms of job title, he or she may very well be. But if we were to identify who holds the real power, it's the one who has the strongest voice. The distinct tone is easily noticeable. It commands respect and it draws your attention. It's the voice that will make you listen intently, word for word. It's also important to note the difference between the strong voice and a loud voice. The latter is simply more vexing enough to make you want to turn away. Listen to the words they use. This tip comes from an FBI agent, a profession that requires good people-reading abilities. A suggestion they made is to notice the action words used by the speaker. The example given was that of a company's big boss who says, "I decided to go with this brand." Notice how they use the word decided, not picked, went for, or chose. The word decided connotes cautiousness and smart planning on the part of the boss. It indicates that they're likely the type of person who thinks their decisions through. Embrace the small talk. A lot of us feel uneasy when making small talk. Many think it's a waste of time, while others find it to be an awkward experience. But it's from these brief interactions where you'll have a good gauge of an individual's personality. You'll likely see many of these telltale signs we mentioned, which you can take cues from. Don't ignore the context. These signs may be indicative of specific behaviors, but you still need to look at the context. In the job interview example that we gave earlier, the interviewer leaning back on the chair may show disinterest, but it could also mean they're starting to feel the effects of the long workday they've just had. This is where your discernment skills will come into play. Take note of the signs, but also get a good read of the situation. Then weigh your options. Trust your gut. Your first impression of something or someone is likely accurate, but at the same time, you should also be making judgments after you've separated yourself from your biases. Don't let the situation or the person sway into making judgments. Trust your gut instincts and make it stand out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Psychology Pub.